This is VCD 2541 Progress Report number 1. This is Michael Kotis reporting the progress on his individual project, which is a continuation of the Mandible Island Match 3 game project worked on in the previous course. So far it's a proof of concept, not a complete game, but the overarching goal is to make it into something that is more of a complete standalone game, as you know, with at least 2 or 3 levels and some functioning menus. And the menus are to take on the look and feel of the theme of the game, which is a pirate themed game. And so initial goals, however, were to work on changing or modifying the resolution, the format of the screen, and do some initial refinements to the opening screen to just make the user experience a little bit better. So initially, as can be seen here, the layout or the screen dimensions were at a 4:3 ratio, which is not something that will fill the entire MacBook Pro 15-inch screen, which is the ideal resolution, or the device that I'm shooting for, because it's the one that I use and have been working on, and it just seems like something that will work for me. And so from this you can see that there's some margins on the sides, there's some extra space. This is the original screen dimensions, again 4:3 ratio, and if I was to play in full screen it would stretch the graphics and distort the image so that it really didn't look so good. So let me go ahead and play the build, and I'll play it in full screen. It's 1280 by 800 resolution. The original was 1024 by 640. So here it is full screen, and it will look proportional and just the way I would like it. Land ahoy! One of the refinements that I made, let me wait till this pirate speaks. There be treasure! Okay, so one of the refinements I made to this opening home screen, title screen, is the skip intro button, which I will call upon right now. Another of the refinements that I made is with the cannon fire. Initially, originally it was set up so that the cannon rows, all the cannons would fire in unison. Let's just turn the music off for now. All the cannons would fire in unison, and while it was a really cool effect, it was a little bit phony, because in actuality the cannons are not all going to fire exactly at the same time. So I did add to each cannon a random wait time within a certain range so that they all fire at a slightly different time, and the effect works really well. There it goes. That's for each row. There's 2 rows of cannons firing. Another thing I did was I added these little flags. If you look closely, you can see that they're actually waving in the breeze, so they are animated and they are lit by point lights from behind. Otherwise they would look black because of the direction of the light. So just a few little touches. Also, these seagulls that I added in there, the seagulls are assets that were purchased through the Unity Asset Store. So these were positioned in a way that they add a little bit more realism and interest to this opening menu screen. Let's take a look at the menus now. I'm going to get out of full screen mode. Okay. So the initial menus that were provided by something called the Menu Starter Kit, which is a script-based menu system um, that is installed into the project, and it provides a lot of functionality within the game. Again, it's all based on scripting, and so the menu screens that are given by default are very functional, but the graphics on them are pretty generic and not very attractive in my opinion. A lot of boxiness going on and some redundancies. For example, in Hall of Fame, is it scores? Is it Hall of Fame? Should it be high scores? You know, it's a little bit too complicated. So just sort of a generic back button. The profiles menu is very similar. This is something that I added, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But the profiles menu is very similar. There is this functional slider, which is really cool. This is the handle. Here's the slider area. There's, again, some generic graphics added in there. The options menu is the same. Functional slider. These icons are actually buttons, which the little speakers have some sound waves coming out of them. If they are clicked on, there's a script that will take the square sprite that's already in there. So this is a perfectly square sprite, and this speaker takes up half of that sprite. And so what the script will do is when I click on this to turn the sound off, it will only show half of the sprite. So the sprite is there, but will only show half, and these will become invisible. So it's not changing out the sprite, it's actually changing the amount of the sprite that's being displayed, which is pretty cool, but it's all based on scripting, and it's not something that I'm able to do using Playmaker or traditional states. I can't do in other words, if I wanted to use my own graphic rather than this rather generic speaker graphic, it's not a matter of just switching mine out with this one for a couple of different reasons, which I'll go into. So there's sound effects, there's music. There was a third one called Voices, which I already, on this screen, I already have hid because I don't really need that one. And then there's a credits menu, which really doesn't have much to it except for the credits title and the back button, and presumably it would just be a list of credits. Maybe I'm thinking about making it into a like a kind of a menu with a slider bar like this, so you could scroll through the credits. But that's that in terms of what the menus started out looking like by default. Going to the build that I have, what I've worked on so far is just trying to get the look and feel to keep with that Mandible Island pirate theme. So let's just, first of all, why don't we start at the beginning here, go to the Profiles menu, and I have worked on this. There's a background, which is a sprite created in Photoshop. There's some typography here, also done in Photoshop with effects and layer effects and things like that. I haven't. This has taken a lot of trial and error experimentation because the menu starter kit is very finicky. There are game objects that are already populated into the Unity scene, and turning anything on and off, moving anything, deleting something and replacing it with a new game object that's identical, it will not work. It will cause the script not to function for whatever reason, and so it's very tricky to try to deconstruct the functionality of this and figure out how to customize it in such a way that I'm able to use my own graphics and develop my own look and feel. So I am still working on this one, but from these create new profile bars are the default provided by Menu Starter Kit. The one that already has a profile in it is gives you a sense of what these might also look like. I haven't done a lot with the typography in here yet either. This is my own little skull icon, so the idea here is that I earn 3 skulls when I complete each level. And so I've completed a level, I have 3 golden skulls. The original graphic was a star, so it was you earn 3 stars. So I did create my own icon, but the lives menu, this is their default icon. So far it's showing 3 lives, and there's a little heart. I might go with the same kind of heart theme, but I'll customize it to be a bit more consistent with my look. This button works along the slider. Somehow this got a little bit offset, and I'll have to fix that. It's not quite aligned with this little slice in the sand here, but this is a part of the background sprite, this little slice. To make this button, or this handle, not really a button, but the handle, I had to replace the sprite, which is, here it is. Here's the handle sprite that is given in Menu Starter Kit, and it is set to stretch proportionally based on how many parts are being populated here, so this can get smaller or larger. So there was something in the sprite options where I was able to check a box that says maintain the proportions so that my dagger here will not stretch like the original handle. So a few little technical issues here. Let's go to return. Let's look at the scores. Similar kind of thing with the scores. Here's the original. I haven't worked on the typography yet. It's a little bit tricky also because some of the scripting is based on the particular font that's the default font, and changing the font doesn't necessarily, for example, if this is all caps and I want to use a different font and have only the first letter of the name capitalized, well, it's not working. Everything's showing up lowercase. So I may be stuck with this font, or I may just make all the names can be lowercase. So again, I solved the problem of Hall of Fame versus scores. It's kind of an identity crisis. What is it going to be? I decided to make it high scores. I think it's a little bit redundant to have both Hall of Fame and scores. So let's make it high scores, and that simplifies it a little bit from an information design standpoint. The options menu was quite a challenge for me. Going to the original options menu, or the default options menu, it's laid out horizontally, and I wanted mine to be a vertical layout. So it's not that I replaced the existing game objects with my own, but I took the game objects that were given and modified the parameters, the orientation, the rotation, all that stuff, in order to get these slider bars to become vertically oriented and to have the particular length and width that I needed for this. Again, keeping with that pirate island kind of a theme, high tide, mid tide, low tide. I thought that was kind of fun. Instead of just a solid color for this adjustment slider, I put a material in here which is just a simple water material. It's not the Water Pro. I actually did a lot of experimentation with different water materials and just tried out different things, and the simple water looked the best. I did some adjustments with that to make it look okay as well. And then these music and the sound effects button, I think that it's not exactly obvious that one of the things with this menu starter kit is that there are no hover states or rollover states, so that if I was to roll over a button, it doesn't change color to indicate that it's something that's clickable. So I don't really think, I mean, I guess it's obvious that if you click on this, it'll turn the sound off, but I don't think it really was. I mean, when I was trying this out, I just kind of did it by accident. I wasn't sure that it was something that was functional. So I think just in this case, just adding some information like on off kind of gives a clue that if this button's on, there must be an off, so if I click on it, it'll turn off. So I do not have a hover state, rollover state built into this because it's just not part of the script, but it does work when I click on it and it changes to off. And these sliders work, and so they do function. It was quite a bit of experimentation to figure out how to get my own buttons in here and have an on-off button that was different than the default graphic. And so maybe this is a good time to quit and to take a look at the go into Unity itself and take a look at how that was constructed. So let's go ahead and turn on the preview mode. Skip and let's turn off the music. Whoops, okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this options menu. All these game objects are given by the menu starter kit, so doing anything like deleting, moving, replacing with my own game object to kind of mimic the functionality will not work because it's all attached to a pre-written script. And I did try something like that at one point where I replaced a game object with a new game object, and it completely broke the menu, and luckily I had a backup, and I had to go and restore from the backup. So I'm really stuck with, there's advantages to having this menu starter kit function, but there's a lot of workarounds and some limitations that I have. So let's just take a look at the options menu. There's a background image which I have in. Let's see, I have placed in there. So let me turn that off so you can see the extent of it. Okay, so the background image contains everything except for these buttons, and the buttons have a little bit of a sand background as part of their, these are sprites, so the sprite has a little bit of a sand background. The reason is because these buttons have a three-dimensional look. This was all constructed in Photoshop, and there are some layer effects and blending layer type things that happen that just will not work unless the sand background is part of the sprite. It's not going to blend itself in Photoshop. So this means that for one thing, I couldn't just replace the on-off icon that was provided, which is that little speaker icon. I couldn't just replace it with one of these buttons because I'd have a problem with aligning the sand so it didn't look like it shifted when the button was functioning, turning on and off. So I do have, I did replace the little speaker icon with my own sprite, which is just a little square that has no image in it. It's just completely transparent. So there's still a functional button there. And that button, that image needs to be active because there is a script that depends on it. And this on-off script depends on that image being active. So there does need to be an active image there that when pressed or on click turns the music on and off. But also I have a game object set up here also, so that on click, let's see if I can find what I have. I have something called the music bool manager attached to that. So for each of these icons, and I did place these button icons directly as children of the options object that's provided by Menu Starter Kit. I did place these in there as sprites, just game object sprites that are being activated and deactivated by the bool manager. So the default bool is set the bool at false. That's the default bool. So each one of these has a bool attached to them. The on buttons are just in there. They don't turn on and off, but the off buttons do turn on and off. They just cover the on buttons, so there's no need to turn the on buttons on. If I go down to the bool manager, it's set to flip the bool so that when I depress the options button, the music bool manager will activate. When it activates, the bool flips to true. When the bool flips to true, then this options on off trigger will activate the music off button. So maybe I can show that. Let me make sure that I have everything turned back on here. Well, let me go ahead and try it. Oops. Okay, so right now it's a little bit out of sync because I'm not sure exactly why. I do need to make an adjustment because what's happening is that now the music is off. The music button is set to off, but the music is going. And when I have the music button set to on, the music is turning off. So I think I know why that's happening. Well, I have to look into it, but it started out correct. Still, the idea is the same. It's just there's a little problem here. Should be the opposite. Let me try the sound effects one. So I have two FSMs set up, two state machines, one for the music on-off, one for the sound effects on-off. Let's see if that one's in sync. So if I turn the sound effects off, there should be no... Yeah, that little knife sharpening sound is the sound effect that turns on and off. So I think this one's working correctly. Okay. Well, I've got a little problem there that I have to work out, which is that the sometimes the music on/off button is the music actually turns on when the off button is depressed. Not all the time. Sometimes. You might also notice that with the game menu, let me turn this back on, the background back on. Let's see. I have the flag here that's animated. It comes from the same source as the flags that are attached to the ship. It was a asset that I purchased with the animation built into it. I think it looks really great, and it has this effect where when I press one of these menu buttons, and my computer is getting a little bit overworked here, so I have the spinning beach ball of death, but it did happen. Let me try it again. So when I press, let's say, for example, the profiles button, this flag raises, and then when I press return, the flag lowers, and that works for all of these menu buttons. And the way I have that working is that I've got a waypoint set up for the flag being raised and a waypoint set up for the flag being lowered. When the camera comes around to its final waypoint, because the camera is moving, there's sort of that beginning animation where the camera is flying over the island or around the island. When the camera gets to its final waypoint, the flag and its waypoints are set to appear, because if they were visible before that, it might show up as you're zooming around the island. You just see this flag floating there. But they're positioned so that when the camera is looking at the island from its final waypoint, it's positioned so that it will be visible when the camera raises and just out of screen when the camera lowers. So let's see if I can find the, let's look at, let's look in the scene view here, and let me see if I can find this flag. Wherever it is. Let me find the waypoint. Flagpole up. Flagpole up. Okay, there's a waypoint for flagpole up, waypoint for flagpole down. Oh, and there's the flag attached to its flagpole. So there's a flag with a flagpole, and the flagpole is nested inside of the flag object so that they move together. As I said, the flag object that's animating was an asset that I purchased, but I created the flagpole and I created this little system of waypoints where the flag raises and lowers. So let's go ahead and it's currently at its down waypoint or lowered waypoint, which is just out of screen. If I press on a menu button, it will raise and it will appear in the camera. There it goes. And let me go ahead and hit return. So that was a cool little effect. I really think that it adds a lot to the kind of the excitement or the immersion effect. You get the idea that you're in this world. There's the flag flapping. I added some sound effect of the flapping, which I think adds a lot. The seagulls in the background flying around. There's flags and cannons and some ocean waves kind of crashing, and the volcano spewing out lava and stuff. So that's my progress so far, and I am not finished with the menus yet. I have quite a bit of work to do still. Again, it's quite a process of trial and error to try to deconstruct the menu starter kit, because it's all based on scripting and just seeing what works and what doesn't, and a lot of problem solving in order to set up state machines that bypass some of the scripting to customize things as much as I can. So that's what I'm planning on doing, is continuing for the next, at least for the next week, with continuing working on the menus and getting them a bit more refined, and solve some of the bugs that I have, like with the options menu, the music turning on and off, the wrong button appearing on occasion. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening.